What does your gaming library compose of? Maybe mostly the current generation video games everybody's been talking and raving about. Maybe even some pre-orders of the games you have high expectations of, or just a fan of the series. Or it could be a lot of games which are considered old, going way back when you remember playing them as a kid. For the recent half of this year, I have myself buying and playing these old video games, and found myself enjoying and spending more time on them over the recent releases I have played considerably. And for most, this may be relatable and not a surprise, as there's a current gaming trend where remasters and modern games stylized after the retro era are becoming more common. Playing old video games in this generation doesn't make me unique. And on this video, I'll be sharing my insights into 4 reasons why playing old video games is on the rise. Maybe some of these are your own personal reasons, or maybe none, or maybe all. Whatever the case, let's dive in and explore on why old video gaming is on the rise. Now let's start with the most obvious. Reason number 1, nostalgia bias. Perhaps much of your attachment to old video games is due to the fond memories you've had with them as a kid. Whether it's playing couch co-op with your friends, or that moment you tried to snuck up playing until 5 a.m. and your mom caught you and got a scolding for it. Just as with many things in life, we are naturally drawn towards things we have put sentimental value over, as us human beings are naturally biased to the things that gives us enjoyment and entertainment. Granted, this may not be the most qualitative and definitely the most subjective reason of all, but it's one I personally catch myself thinking when I do play games from my childhood. Not to sound like that old geezer shouting kids to stay away from his lawn, but sometimes I just do think to myself, man, it was better during the good old days. Reason number 2, disillusionment towards the current gaming industry. This is perhaps the most substantial and technical reason of why you enjoy playing old games more. It might be a sentiment that you have whenever you read and watch about the latest releases, previews, developments you can find about gaming nowadays. If you're around the internet as much as I am, talking trash and cashing on the negative review trend shouldn't be new to you right now. And while undoubtedly there has been innumerable releases that are worthy for money and the praise of both the critics and gaming community alike, we can argue that a lot of video games released for the past years have been ridden with disappointing quality and or underwhelming experience, whether it be with gameplay, the story, the flow, or outright technical bugs, which are rightfully received negatively by the gaming community. From the buggy releases on day 1, disappointing sequel to a favorite series, the trend of microtransactions-ridden games, not just on free-to-play, but even those full-price games that intervene and sometimes become the center of the game, which a lot simply call as cash grabs for the big publishing companies, looking at EA and Activision Blizzard, and promises that are not kept and delivered by the developers. It stands to reason why a lot of gamers, especially those who have lived and played through the games way back, can't help but compare and have the back in my day moments.
Remember when games are fully polished, doesn't have predatory microtransactions, and have lots of enjoyable content?
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Where the gameplay is enjoyable, a lot of content is packaged to a reasonable price, and the replayability value is high. Unfortunately, and without a big pushback from us consumers, that is, the market, this will seem to be the trend going forward with the video gaming industry. And why wouldn't it? Investors have hit this gold mine by discovering and exploiting a large, steadily rising, and very profitable market where consumers are, and this might be a heavy term to use, addicted to it. Sure, you might be the rational one from the crowd who goes around saying, well, I have stayed away from microtransaction-ridden games. But for every one of you, there are tens, hundreds, and even thousands who would still be drawn into these games, which in turn would incentivize the publishing companies to continue the practice. Even the very mode of how we purchase games digitally nowadays are heavily conducive to be exploited. How? Remember back in the day where you need to have multiple discs that comes in with a box, and sometimes with other goodies such as documentation about the game, concept arts, etc. And the best part, developers actually work hard on a timeline to deliver an actually finished game. Nowadays, oh, the game's buggy in release? Don't worry, we'll just patch it up sometime soon. With these factors going into play, it shall be no surprise that churning out quantity over quality is the more profitable route for the publishers and investors. We're rushing out developers to work on a very tight deadline, aware that the game is nowhere near finished. Doesn't matter as the digital distribution of products provide a lot of safety nets for said gaming companies to exploit. My word of advice, if you want to make a change against this practice, vote with your money, for it is the language of money and the bottom line, not a PR or tweet on Twitter or X as Elon prefers it nowadays, that the higher ups of these companies only understand. Reason number 3. Too many options, too little time and money. This is quite tied to the previous 2 reasons, but mostly with the nostalgia bias. Given that we are in an age where we have lots of video games to choose from, with many features, teasers, and other fast-paced marketing strategies that the publishing companies push your way, and that if you have the shared sentiment that the quality of video games nowadays have been underwhelming as compared to the games years before, we would most likely tend to go with those which we are familiar with. As natural as it is to have biases is with us humans, it is also natural for us to stay with something we are familiar with, and most definitely, something that we have enjoyed and have positive experiences of. This does not just translate to literal buying and playing the same game you have played back when you were a kid, but it could also reflect on how and from whom you choose to buy your games from. Oh, you enjoyed Dark Souls back then? Well, you might have purchased Elden Ring since you acknowledge From Software's credibility to deliver a good experience. In general, this reason reflects on the way we invest our limited time, and maybe for some or most people, their disposable income to invest to, which typically we tend to put into where and what we are familiar and sure with. At the end of the day, it's your time and money, which you alone get to decide on where to spend on. If this video or its points don't resonate with you at all, that's totally fine. Don't let anybody tell you what to do on how or where you want to enjoy your time and money. For video games, in whatever year or form they may come from, should serve just that. An entertainment, sometimes educational, work of art. Or so at least I think it still does. So what do you guys think? Do all the reasons explain how you feel towards playing old video games and your take on the current gaming industry? Maybe just one? Or maybe not at all? Let me know down in the comments below. Maybe there's some or a lot I have missed out, which I'll be interested to know. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. 4th reason. It's because they're on sale.